Hello, welcome to this video lesson on counting sheep in Cumbria. So this is a puzzle that I did on one of my past BFLO competitions. So what you're dealing with here, it says below are sheep scoring numbers from Milam, Cumbria in northern England. Sheep scoring numbers were used by shepherds to count sheep, by children to play games, and by ladies to count knitting stitches. They seem to be left over from an old Brythonic or Celtic language related to Welsh and Cornish. So to get into this, this is a number puzzle, okay, number one. Number two, you want to, as always, activate any prior knowledge that you happen to have. Now, most people are aware that the most common base for number systems around the world is 10, just as in English, right? You can count up to 10, and then you count by 10s, 20, 30, 40, and so then you can say things like 13, which is essentially 3, 10, right? In other words, kind of 3 plus 10. So most people are aware of that. That's a good place to start with any number puzzle. You might also know there are sometimes other bases. Some languages have other bases. And it would be useful if you did think about that and think about the fact that some languages have multiple bases. For example, Nahuatl, the Aztec language, you can count kind of by 5s, 10s, 15s, 20s. There are different sub-bases. So, there's a special word for 15, and then 16 is like 15 plus 1, kind of thing like that. Being aware that some languages might have more than one base could also be helpful here. So let's just jump in and look at this. Oh, I should mention one more thing. If you happen to know that Celtic languages are Indo-European, which means they are vaguely related to most other European languages, that is to say they're related to all the Germanic languages, like English. English is a Germanic language. They're related to all the Romance languages that come from Latin. They're related to Greek and so on. If you happen to know that Celtic languages like this are related, then you can look for vague similarities between some of the numbers and what we might find in English or other Indo-European languages you might know if you know a little bit of Spanish or you know a little bit of Greek or anything like that. Also, of course, Hindi and Sanskrit, if we talk about the Indian subcontinent, those are Indo-European languages. So let's jump into this. So we look at our data, right? Now I always tell people when you're looking at the data, you want to look carefully at your English part first because we know the English, right? We know what 15, 1, 16, 2, 10, 11, and 14 are. So we can see immediately there you've got a lot of numbers that are 10 or more, and then you've got 1 and 2. All right, and then we look over at our other information, and we can see straight off that we've got like Ina Bumfit, and then later on we've got Bumfit. So it looks like Ina Bumfit is some kind of compound of Bumfit. We've got Pederadig, Ina Dig, and then we've got Dig. So it also looks like Pederadig, Ina Dig are some kind of compound of Dig. So what I would immediately think here is, okay, we've got multiple bases. All right, so going with the most obvious bases that languages tend to have, 10 is a big one, right? So if you know anything about that, well, okay, let's look for something that might be 10. We've got lots of things. We've got 10 straight up, right, in this puzzle. E is 10. So we know there's going to be a 10. We're going to have an 11, which is one more than 10. We're going to have the word for 1 in there somewhere. So, hey, that might be something to look for. We're going to have other words higher than 10. We're going to have 14, 15, and 16. So we definitely don't have, if we look at all the data in the Cumbrian language, we don't have anything that looks like compounds all from, so 10, 11, 12, well, 10, 11, 14, 15, 16. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. We don't have anything that looks like the same number in a compound 5 times. So we again can confirm the fact we think we've got multiple bases here. Now, we know we're going to have 1 by itself, 2 by itself, and if it's base 10, we're going to have a 10 by itself. We could look into our data here, and we're going to see that we've got some smaller numbers. We've got Ina, Dig, Pena, and Bumfit. Those are kind of the smallest ones. Now, if you know anything about this being an Indo-European language, you might be able to guess on Ina, because so many Indo-European languages have a number like this. So in English, we have one. In Latin, we have unus. In some other Romance languages, we might have un, something like that, or an. We have eins in German. And so Ina is going to be our one. Another thing you might be able to pick up on if you know some other Indo-European languages is that dig is going to be 10. So it's kind of like digital, right, which is base 10 numbers based on that base 10. It's also it's related to 10 in English. It's related to decim in Latin. It's related to deca in Greek, which we get a lot of deca words in science that have that root for 10, decimeters, and various things like that. Okay, so if we've got Ina is 1 and dig is 10, we're looking for a 2 because there ought to be something pretty simple in there. It's going to be either the Bumfit or the Pena. Well, we can also look around and we can see that Bumfit appears in a compound, right? So if dig is appearing in a compound as 10, Pedera dig, Ina dig, so we are going to know those, then Bumfit appearing at the end, it looks like the smaller additives go in the front, right? Ina we already guessed is 1, so Ina Bumfit something with a 1 added to it. At that point, you should be able to say, hey, if Ina is 1, dig is 10, Pena is going to be the 2. And then it's going to be easy to match up everything, right? So we need a word for 15, we need a word for 16. If Ina means 1, Bumfit could be 15. Ina Bumfit could be 16 because it's 1 plus 15. All right, Pedera dig. That's another word made from the dig, which is 10, so we can guess that's going to be the 14, right? And so we've worked it all out. Basically, we've got a 2-base system. You've got a base 10, dig, and you've got a base 15, Bumfit. And again, I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of languages do this. Nahuatl and a lot of other Central and South American languages have a kind of base 15 sub-base that's added in along with the 5s and the 20s that you get. Because, again, like the Mayan system was base 20, and you see that kind of base 20 all over the place, but then they'll have the sub-base 5, and then you end up with, well, anyhow, you get 10s, 5s, 20s all being important numbers. So that's what we've got here in Cumbrian, this Celtic language as well. Okay, if we've got that, should be easy to get Pena Bumfit. We figured out Pena, or I guess I should say Pena for that. Ina for the A-I-N-A, and Pena for this. So Pena Bumfit, we've got 2 and then 15, so that's going to be 2 and 15 is 17. I can do math. And then the most likely value of Para Bumfit based on the patterns you've seen. Well, we haven't seen a word for 3 or for 5. And again, if you've figured out that this is kind of an Indo-European languages, there's some similarities to other words, then para should seem more like 3, which does have the R sound in it, rather than 5. You see 5 in other languages, like in German, it's fünf. In this particular language, Cumbrian, 5 is actually going to be pump, which is related to pinte in Greek, which is 5. We, of course, get a lot of roots from pinte. But again, the key letter in para that tells you that it's going to be 3 instead of 5 is the R in the middle of it, which you see in almost every Indo-European version of the word for 3. All right, and then it gives us some sheep scoring numbers from a related dialect, not the Milam Cumbrian dialect, but one from Kirkby Lonsdale. And so then you have to figure out what those are. And so you use the same patterns up above. I won't go through all of this, but you've figured out that you've got base 10, you've got, the subbase and so on. So you figure out what's going on here and translate those into the correct numbers. All right. Do notice that I say on the 10 that those are in numerical order, so you know that they're going from smaller to larger, which might help you out. All right, well, I didn't completely solve that puzzle, but I got through the basics of how to approach it, and I hope that taught you a few things about approaching number puzzles and about some of the tricks you can use, basing this on knowledge of language in general and number systems and so on. Take care.